You're probably seeing this everywhere, that Airbnb is dead. But is that really true? In this video, I'm going to share with you what's really going on with short-term rentals. And if you stay until the end, I'll describe how to best position yourself for short-term rental investing in 2024. So let's go. Let's begin with sharing some facts. First, let's start with the tailwinds, or the things that are really propelling the short-term rental market in the United States. Probably the biggest thing that we see is that there's increased demand from travelers. Airbnb released their full end-of-year results for 2023, and they stated that they saw a 17% increase in demand from 2023 to 2022, which is a big jump, and it continues to increase over time. In Q4, which is October to December of last year, they saw the biggest increase of first-time bookers ever, which means people that are brand new to the Airbnb platform or short-term rental in general. So there's a lot of demand for short-term rentals that continues to grow, and Vrbo is seeing some of the same things. But it's really hard to paint a broad brushstroke over the entire country. It's really location specific. If we look at Orlando, for example, which is a huge short-term rental market, there's over 14,000 short-term rentals there alone. The average revenue per listing increased 22% year over year. That is a big increase, and that is the money made by all short-term rentals overall. So there's a lot more activity in Orlando. The same is true for Pigeon Forge, which is really kind of the hub of the Smoky Mountains, which is another big short-term rental area. They've also seen increases of 15% year over year. And another market that I'm going to call out is Joshua Tree National Park, that whole area in California near the desert. That is also growing, and that grew in demand 22% as well in 2023. So there's definitely increased demand across the board for short-term rentals, and Airbnb kind of being the 800-pound gorilla of short-term rentals. What their data shows really illuminates what's going on with short-term rentals overall in this country. One other thing that's really helping the market is that there's more creativity, there's more professionalism in how short-term rentals are run, and this helps people get more comfortable with using short-term rentals. And when I say comfortable, when you go to a hotel, you go to a hotel expecting a certain level of service, and every single, say, Marriott you go to in the country, they're going to be pretty similar. They're going to have the same sheets, they're going to have kind of the same amenities. Not so with short-term rentals. Short-term rentals are also different, and some hosts are excellent and some are really poor. And so you don't really know what you're getting besides just reading the reviews on a particular listing. But the fact that there's more professionalism in this area is helping elevate the standards for everybody and making it more attractive for people to want to stay there more than once. And the creativity is really cool because you can get some neat experiences that you can't get anywhere else in any hotel through a short-term rental. So these things are the kinds of things that are really helping propel the market forward, and what I believe are some of the reasons why this market continues to expand rapidly. Hey, you liking this video? Please click the like button so YouTube knows that you are enjoying this video and will share it with more immigrant professionals. Now, back to the video. So, demand is increasing across the board, which is great. But there are some things that are headwinds, or things that potentially are going against short-term rentals right now. And I'll talk about three biggies that I see. The first one has to do with an increase in supply. What's supply? What do I mean by that? I mean the number of listings that are available to rent. So this is a good thing for the traveler because there's more choice and there's more things to select from. But as an investor, it's not necessarily a good thing because the more short-term rentals there are, the more competition there is, and the less of the pie you get to split with others. But this is something that we need to keep an eye on. Now, I mentioned Airbnb's numbers before, that they grew 17% year over year in Q4 of 2023 versus 2022. And that same period for supply, listings grew 18%, so just slightly more than the demand. So across the board, and I'm seeing it in my market that I invest in, we're getting supply jumps that are pretty dramatic in some certain areas. AirDNA had very similar stats, and if you don't know AirDNA, they're like the data warehouse, data repository for a lot of short-term rental stats, and they have very similar data to what Airbnb has in terms of listings growing. Now, it's also very local. I looked at the number of listings that were available in 2021 versus 2024 in the same markets that I just talked about. In Orlando, over those 3 years, there was a 50% increase in supply, which is really dramatic. That's a huge increase. And that's probably higher than what the demand is, which is pretty concerning if you're an investor. In Pigeon Forge, which is also the Smoky Mountains, they also saw a 50% increase in supply. And Joshua Tree had a 35% increase in supply during those 3 years. So that's a big increase. And that's something that even though demand is going up, which is a great thing, if supply keeps going up as well dramatically, then overall investors are going to start to see some deterioration in the money that they're making. But I'm generalizing with this, and I'll talk about that here in a second. The second thing I want to mention is interest rates. Now, interest rates, as you know, are at a fairly high level compared to what they used to be before just a few years ago. And there's really no sign as of now of that decreasing much over the next 6 to 12 months. So increasing interest rates make it more difficult to acquire a property and to make a cash flow. And now it's not impossible, you can certainly do it, but it just makes it more difficult. And that, to me, is a headwind for the short-term rental investing area that we're focused on. And the third thing I want to mention is increased regulations. Now, over the last several years, we've seen various cities of all sizes start to enact or grow their short-term rental regulations. We've heard big cases like New York City that have banned short-term rentals. Dallas had done something very similar. So, a lot of the big cities are really taking a look at regulations and making them more difficult. But there are areas that potentially don't have that much of an impact. For example, areas that are traditional vacation markets, like the Smoky Mountains, for example, are probably not going to see too many regulations because the whole economy depends on those short-term rentals. So it really depends on the area, but we've seen an increase of regulations in general over the years. And so what that means as an investor is that you have to be very careful into where you invest and making sure that it's a good spot in terms of regulations. Now, one pro tip that I like to share is that, it's probably a good thing if there are regulations in the city or area that you're looking to invest in. Now, that seems kind of odd, right? You probably think, well, it's probably better if there was no regulations, right? Well, yeah, that's better to some degree, but if there's no regulation right now today, the chances of something being created in the future is getting higher and higher. And when it does get created, you have no idea what that looks like. And you certainly don't want to be caught with an investment or two or three in a market that you can only be competitive in because of regulations. So I believe that it's a good thing to go into markets that have at least some regulation so that you know kind of what's going on, what the feeling is there in the market. Let's ask the question, is short-term rental investing dead? And I believe it's not, but you need to be very careful because it depends on the area you're investing in. Why does it depend? Because in some specific areas, there may be tremendous amount of traveler growth and not much growth in terms of the listings or supply, and there's a great opportunity, whereas somewhere else might have a huge increase in supply and not a very big increase in demand, which will make it a whole lot more difficult to succeed. Plus, you need to be a very good host. You need to be able to have either yourself be a good host or hire a property manager or a co-host to help you be professional and really make the most out of your investment. So that's another thing that depends on. And even within certain areas, certain property types, for example, could be more profitable than others. For example, it could be that in a certain market, there may be thousands of 3-bedroom homes, for example, that all have to compete with each other. Maybe there's only a handful of, say, 7-bedroom or 8-bedroom homes. And in that space, it is going very, very well for those investors. Whereas those that are investing in 3-bedroom homes are struggling. You don't know. So that's why I say it depends. You need to understand how to look at a market and to figure out, is this a good market for me to invest in? And do the numbers actually work long-term in this market? That's something, I think I'll make a video about that. If you're interested in me doing so, just make a comment down below and I'll add it to my list of topics to talk about. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching the Immigrant Wealth channel.